Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Squid Game, Season 1, Episode 3, The Man with the Umbrella is the episode I am breaking down, recapping today. So if you haven't watched Squid Game already, probably not. I'm going to spoil everything. I'm going to talk about every little piece of bit of information that happens in this episode. So with that information out in the open, let's get it started. This episode starts with, as we left off, everybody who's decided to go back to participate in the games has done so. They've been entered into the vans. They have been gassed. Some of them not falling asleep, primarily the pickpocket chick was wearing a mask and was not gassed. We see her waking up at the end of the last episode. We also see Jun-ho, the cop, tailing one of these vans. So in this episode, you have Jun-ho kind of giving us the behind the scenes, showing us the logistics of what goes on behind the curtains of the Squid Game. What all these, people wearing the pink uniforms are doing outside of the barracks and outside of the actual game room. Which all of the vans, you see all of these vans full of people, all the people that are returning, which there's 187 people returning. So all those minivans are getting loaded onto a giant ship, which Jun-ho is able to get inside one of these vans and pretend to be passed out. Then you have, one of the employees going through scanning people because apparently they were on their first time in, were given, I would assume, some kind of implant. They never showed that, but they're doing this little scan thing, which they also do to the employees. So it seems like a thing that gets tracked, which the cop does not have. So when they go to scan the cop who's pretending to be passed out, it's not showing up. And then he ends up fighting this guy in the van, putting him in a rear naked choke, dumping the body overboard, making sure to put his ID and badge that he has on him on the body that he's putting overboard. But that's how he gets in. So now he's wearing one of the masks. He's got one of the circle masks on, which from what I've gathered, how the hierarchy of these masks go, you have, of course, the front man who's wearing a completely unique mask, more of a actual face, but it's geometric and flat black. It looks cool. He's like the head of he's like the main guy. And then you have the squares, the masks with the square on them. Those seem to be like managers, right? They kind of, there's only one of them usually in each situation. They kind of be the leads of everything. Then you have the the triangles on the masks, which those guys always have like machine guns on them. They seem to be like the muscle, the enforcers. And then you have the dudes that have the masks with the circles on them. And those seem to be just like the pawns, just the low-level employees that do all the work, do all the grunt work. They remove the bodies, they prep the bodies, they do all the stuff. And he's one of the pawns, one of the people with the mask, the zero mask. But we get in, we're seeing all the people getting loaded in on gurneys because they're still passed out from the gas. You see how they all get prepped where they're, taking their clothes off, taking their belongings away, their phones and their wallets and everything that they came with, getting them all into their jumpsuits again. So we're seeing all that behind the scenes. And in that, we see that the pickpocket chick is able to, because she never was gassed, we see her, sleight of hand, take the knife out of her pocket and make sure she keeps it, make sure she tucks it into her thing. So we see she's a little bit more prepared going in now. She's awake. She's got a knife with her. She's got a weapon. But they're all back. They're all back. 187 of them are back. And you have Gi-hun, chatting with the old man who he thought might have been dead because he was still sleeping. He's like the last one to wake up. They have a little back and forth, and he's like, "I'm glad you showed up because you convinced me to leave, and then you also convinced me to come back," is what Gi-hun tells the old man. But they're all like, now that they're back, Sing-woo, Ali's back, they're like, we should team up. We should really team up, form teams. So you see that team forming. Also, the old man is part of that team. Then you also see the criminals. The mobster guy is back, and he's trying to recruit the pickpocket. She doesn't want to have anything to do with it. She doesn't think he's worth shit. He's, she clearly sees through him. And then you have the player 212, who was the first player in the last episode to start begging after the first game, begging for her life to pay off her debts. But then she also voted to stay after they did that. Now she's back and she's trying to team up with the criminal kind of group, unsuccessfully, as the gangster is more willing to just have sex with her than actually make her part of the gang. At least that's what it seems. You're seeing them all. You're seeing the players kind of start to group together, and then you're also seeing from the cops' perspective that the employees, like he's going back to his room. You're seeing the employees have their own room. They don't know who each other are. There's a sign with the 3 rules that the employees must follow. The first rule being that you have to wear your mask at all time outside. Just not show anybody what your face looks like. You are not allowed to speak to anybody, which was already mentioned in this episode when the cop was almost busted dumping the body over on the boat. But yeah, you're not allowed to speak or conversate with anybody unless you're given permission to do so. And same thing with leaving the room. You're not allowed to leave the room, which is insane that they would even that they would have that ability to leave the room anyway. Like, there should be just automatic locks. I mean, we're living in a world where there's this compound where people get to play deadly games in order to win big money, but they can't put automatic locks on the doors. But anyway, rule number 3, don't leave unless you are given permission. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. They all have cameras in the room, so he's got to make sure he's not seen on camera, which I don't know how he does that when he's sleeping. Obviously, when he goes to sleep, he puts the covers over his head, but for anybody that's ever slept before, I don't know about you, but I move a lot, and I would for sure be picked up on some camera. But anyway, this dude's good at it, but can't be seen. But we're seeing that kind of behind the scenes where he's trying to fit in and not get caught, which is interesting, which kind of gives a level of, a level of drama from a different perspective. But anyway, then we're back to the barracks, and you have, again, player 212 banging on the doors. She wants to go pee. What really she wants to do, once she's given access, along with the pickpocket who shows up right when player 212 convinces the guard to let her go pee, the pickpocket shows up because she wants to go snooping. So they both go to the bathroom. You see 212 light up a cigarette that she had. She had like a little capsule stuck up inside her that she pulls out, smoking a cigarette. You see number, was she like 67? Yeah, number 67, the pickpocket, using her knife to unscrew a vent, crawling through the vents, trying to just see what she can see. And it's a kind of a great scene, this bathroom scene, because your character 212 is like loud and annoying and obnoxious, but those are traits that play well in this scene because she's trying to cover up the fact that number 67 is snooping around through the air ducts, and she finds a room where she sees them all mixing this powder. She smells sugar. She sees them mixing this giant powder in these giant vats. So she's not exactly sure what it is, but that's all she sees. And it's a great scene where 212's trying to stall, trying to keep the guard out, despite the guard wanting to come in. It's just really funny scene. So you have all that. The next morning, or actually before that, after the girls get back, the women get back from the bathroom, they're walking back to their bunks and kind of chatting. 212's trying to find out what 67 got to see, but they walk by Sangwoo's bed, so he overhears them. He knows that they've maybe figured stuff out because everybody's like, we need to find out what is the next game so we can try and plan this out, work as a team to figure it out so we can all try and survive together. So the next day, they're served breakfast. Gi-hun is complaining about the milk, that he wants chocolate milk because he's lactose intolerant, and chocolate milk doesn't bother him like regular milk. And there's a scene where the old man said that I forget what he said, but he said that Gi-hun reminds him of his son, which is, it's clear that they have that kind of bond, that they both Gi-hun really, I think, really cares about everybody in their group. He really cares about Ali, cares about, really he has Sangwoo up on a pedestal for sure. I mean, every opportunity, he's like, oh, this is the guy that's like, he's the brilliant guy from our town that made it into this prestigious college. And he's like, he's really puts him up on a pedestal. But, there's, and then, his love of the old man is clear. And same with the old man to Gi-hun, obviously, because, at least he reminds him of his son. I don't know what kind of relationship he has with his son. But anyway, they get into on the way to, no, before they get breakfast. One of the players, I don't know which number, I don't know if I wrote it down. One of the players, no, not 212, was given a note inside of they were given like bread and milk for breakfast. Inside of this bread, a pastry maybe, is a little note, and on the note it said dalgona. That's probably the best. Dalgona, which is apparently a type of candy, which we find out once they go. So he gets a little note. It says that on there. That's what that means. It's a type of candy. I looked it up because I didn't know, but so it's a type of candy, or it's a sweet treat. I don't know if I guess candy. Sure. Then on the way to the game for the day, Sangwoo is trying to get information out of the pickpocket, 67. And he's like, listen, I know you came from North Korea. So you may not have grown up with these games that we're playing. So maybe what you saw doesn't make sense to you. But if you tell me, because I grew up around here. I played all these games growing up. If you tell me, maybe we can work together. Right? Which they kind of mildly, I don't know if they really asked her to join, but it's definitely anyway, he's clearly trying to do everything he can to survive. He gets that information, and when they get in there to the same kind of room, got it's like giant jungle gym equipments all around. And there's these 4 shapes on the wall. There's a circle, a triangle, a star, and an umbrella. And in that moment, you see Sing-woo flash back to a memory of a guy making these candies, making these dalgonas. So he knows, because the game, let's see what the actual game is called. The game is called Ppopgi. Ppopgi. Man, I wish I knew how to pronounce this stuff better. I'm doing my best, people. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. There's a game, Ppopgi, where with using these candies, where these candies they're like circular candies. In the center, there's a shape that's kind of pressed into them. And the game is being able to extract that shape out of that candy. So in Sing-woo's mind, he remembers those shapes, and with the information of the sugar being used from the pickpocket 67, where she told him on the way, he put 2 and 2 together. He knows what this game is going to be, and he doesn't tell anybody. The pickpocket sees this. The pickpocket knows that he knows something. He knows he's up to some shit, because he clearly knows what this stuff is. She's putting it together. So their group decides, because they don't have the information that Sing-woo has now, they still don't know what the game is. They decide to just pick each person, each one of the 4 of them, pick a different shape. That way we're not putting our eggs in one basket, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, what they should be doing is going with the easiest shape to extract, which would be like either the circle or the triangle. Which that's what Sing-woo and the pickpocket choose, the triangle. You have Ali gets the circle, and then Gi-hun and the old man are just like, whatever you want. Gi-hun has this story about he wants to choose the umbrella because, like, when he was a kid, his mom used to beat him with the umbrella when he was bad, and that was the umbrella that he was given when he went out in the rain. So he's never had an unbroken umbrella. So that's why it's just like he likes the idea of going with the umbrella, even not knowing what this game is, where he's literally going to be trying to extract an unbroken umbrella, which I enjoyed that kind of aspect of this episode. That kind of, him having the story of why he chooses it, which ends up being the most difficult shape to extract. But it's great. And you have the old man who's like, doesn't really care either. He ends up getting the star is the shape that he has to extract. Oh, it's number 111 is the guy who got the note in the bread. So anyway, so they go in, they get their shapes, they find out what the thing is. They have 10 minutes to extract these shapes out of this candy, and they're given a little needle. So you're seeing, people scraping in the crease. You're seeing people licking the getting the needle wet to try and moisten it to try and get a better cut on these candies. You're seeing people trying to break it, and then they end up breaking the shape they're trying to extract. They get shot. So you're seeing people start to get killed left and right as, everybody's trying to, get this shape off. And there's this great moment of realization that Gi-hun has as he's just sweating, trying to get this umbrella shape out, where he notices that the sweat from his brow that's dripping on this candy is starting to melt it, and he's putting it up to the light, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. So he starts licking it from the back to try and make it thinner from the back to make, and it just at the last second is able to get it out. And it's like this scene where he's like so happy because he finally, like, he barely made it. Same thing with the red light, green light. He barely made it on that one. Barely got this shape, this crazy shape out using his own technique that nobody was doing until he started doing it. Once he started doing it, you see all the other people oh shit, that's a good, that makes sense. But he got it out. You see other people cheating. You have, of course, player 212, the loudmouth. Because she snuck in her cigarette, she has a lighter. So she's using the lighter to heat up the needle to cut through this sugary candy. And then she gives it to the gangster because she wants to be part of his crew. But yeah, it was an interesting scene because we see that Sing Woo clearly is out for himself. He's not part of the group yet. Not that he was trying, he's just withholding information once he got the information. But you see the pickpocket number 67 has his number. She knows what's up with him. But you see that she's super resilient, super smart, great survivor. She knows how to handle her shit. And you're seeing just kind of the joy that Gi-hun and Ali and the old man kind of they enjoy the camaraderie of having their group. And just, finally getting his unbroken umbrella, Gi-hun, successful at the last minute. The old man also very successful. He got the star, which is the most difficult, but it was the second most difficult, but he was able to get through it as well. But at the end, so after the 10 minutes is up, Gi-hun has his umbrella. The rest of the people that didn't finish are left. One of the guys is covering up his thing. One of the circle heads tells him, show me what you got, and it's broken. So as he gets his gun, the guy lunges, able to get the gun away, stabs him in the eye with the needle that they were using, gets the gun away, is able to grab a mask with a square on it, grab him, put the gun to his head, which earlier, Jun-ho, the cop, is mistakenly in the wrong place. He is supposed to be part of the crew that is to remove the bodies after the game is over. But he is inside of the game while the game is going on. And one of the guy with the square on his mask sees that. He's like, after this game, we're going to talk. That ends up being the same guy that gets, kind of caught by one of the players. Has a gun to his head. You see the front man come out. They tells him to remove his mask. The guy with the gun is like, Well, he's like, I'm gonna, let me go, whatever. They gun down all the people that lost, that were still there. This guy with the gun, this player with the gun, tells the guy, the square mask guy, who's one of the leads. He's one of the manager guys, right? He's seemingly one under the front man. Front man, square mask, triangle mask, circle mask. Square mask guy told to take off his mask, and surprisingly, it's a young kid, which kind of changes the perception of these people that are in these jumpsuits, and they could all just be young kids for all we know. So of course the guy is surprised, and also knows that he's, there's nothing. There's a bunch of people. All the triangle mask guys are there with machine guns, just gunned everybody down. So he ends up blowing his own brains out. The front man comes down, kills the guy that was wearing the square mask, the mask with the square on it, kills him, and he says that if anybody gets identified in any way, you will be eliminated. You will be killed, because the anonymity is essential for this whole thing to work. So yeah, he ends up getting put down because his mask came off. It was rule. What is the rule? The first rule of Fight Club, the first rule of Squid Game, if you are an employee of Squid Game, the first rule is to keep your mask on at all times. So the fact that he took his mask off because the guy with the gun told him to ended up being the last decision he ever made, being a young kid. So that's kind of where, and that was the guy who suspected the cop, who also has a button that's they show it multiple times. He's got a button that's loose. So he's got this wardrobe malfunction that exists. He doesn't really know what his job is. He almost got found out. Luckily, that guy ended up getting killed. The mask with the square on it. So that's kind of where we leave this episode. That game is done. Everybody's going back to the barracks. A little bit of craziness. Seeing Sang-woo not really being a team player. But yeah, that's episode 3, The Man with the Umbrella, talking about Squid Game. So I'll be back next week to break down and recap episode 4, Stick to the Team. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!